is we've decided that we don't want the smell of smoke on our lives. We don't want to come out smelling of bitterness and smelling of doubt and smelling of unbelief and smelling of fear of the future. No, we want to press on into what God has for our lives. And for somebody here, I want to tell you, stop looking back. Whatever it is in your life, whatever that heartache was, that hurt, that misguidance, that abuse, that loss, that tragedy, stop looking back. It's time to press on for what God has for your life. See, the Bible says in Proverbs 4:25, let your eyes look straight ahead. Fix your gaze directly before you. Wherever your gaze is fixed, your feet will follow. You see, fix your eyes directly. The Bible says, look straight ahead, fix your eyes directly before you. But where your gaze is fixed is where your feet will follow. If you keep looking back, you're going to keep returning to old habits, to old ways, to old thinkings, to old patterns of life. Stop looking back. Fix your gaze. The Bible says, fix your eyes on the author and perfecter of your faith. I tell you what is ahead is better than what is behind. And the final one is this. You want to live your life pressing on to what God has, is you've got to be obedient. You've actually got to be obedient. Lot's wife was disobedient. The angels came and they said, don't look back. But she did look back. She was disobedient. The angels came to Lot and they urged him, the Bible said. There was an urgency to leave. They were urging him to move now. But look at what verse 16 says in the Bible. And while he lingered, the men took hold of his hand, his wife's hand, and the hands of his two daughters. And the Lord being merciful to him, they brought him out and set him outside the city. Look at it. And while he lingered, this baffled me. Because I thought, hang on a minute. The Lord has spoken clearly to Lot. He said it's time to move. There was an urgency. I mean, death was pressing at their ankles. Life and promise awaited them. And yet Lot and his wife and family lingered. They lingered. Rather than being obedient, they lingered. You know, maybe there are people here tonight and God has spoken to you about certain things and areas in your life. And rather than being obedient, you find yourself lingering. Just lingering, just on the fence. Unable to make a decision, unable to move, just lingering in that place. And I was thinking, well, why did Lot linger? Why did the wife linger? Why did they do this? And I was thinking, well, the only logical thing I could come up with was, I bet it was because, you know, that was what they were familiar with. That was their lifestyle. That was their home. That's where they lived. That's what they'd known. And here they were in this place. That's where comfort was for them. And so here they were in this place of familiarity and this place of comfort. And rather than being obedient, they were lingering. And that's what tends to happen. We find ourselves in a place where we get familiar. We've learnt to live with some things. We've learnt to carry some things. We've learnt to just ignore some things, but they're still there. And yet we, rather than press on, rather than being obedient, we just familiar with it. We're comfortable with it and we linger in that place of not making decisions. I went to, over Easter, I went to my dad's house just for a couple of days. Told him he was coming up and I was coming up. And on the Friday, he got really excited and he says, well, tomorrow, he says, we're going to go and hit some garage sales. I said, okay, Dad. He got really pumped. He got up early that morning on the Saturday morning. He'd highlighted all of the garage sales that we were going to go and visit. And I was like, okay, Dad, we're going to the garage sales. And so we jump in the car that Saturday morning. We're driving around and going to garage sales. And then as we were driving, we see this sign on someone's front lawn that says garage sale. This got my father's attention because this garage sale was not in the paper with the highlighted other garage sales. This was an unadvertised garage sale. Now these, my friends, are the best garage sales, the unadvertised garage sales, because no one's been to them yet. No one knows about them yet. And so we stumble across this garage sale. My dad says, quick, get out the car. Let's go. And I'm like, okay, Dad, all right, let's, we start walking up the yard. Now, I've got to tell you, I've got to be honest. The house, to me, it didn't look like it was going to have anything really spectacular or anything great. I mean, it was very run down. The weeds and the grass was all outgrown and overgrown, everything. And I was thinking, geez, it doesn't even look like anyone's home. And we're calling out and there's no response. And then all of a sudden, this huge man comes out on the front porch. He's this massive man with this huge big beard down to his waist, and he's not wearing a t-shirt, and I'm looking at this guy thinking, glory, look at this man. And he's like, come on up inside. So I'm like, okay. And so I begin to walk into the house, and his wife was there, and she's like obviously into like hippie sort of stuff, and she's got the tie-dye dress on and dreadlocks and beads and bangles, and she's sort of like standing there looking around. And I sort of walk past the big guy, and I'm like, see her, and I'm like, peace, how are you? And coming into the house, and we're looking around inside this place. I got to tell you, what was inside was mind-blowing. It was spectacular. They had items of furniture that would have been just worth so much. Collectible items. Things from the 18th century. Things that have been passed down from their grandmother to grandmother to grandmother down into their generation. Things that they'd collected with a real eye of antique, and yet they'd made it really modern. And I was blown away. We spent over an hour in their house just talking to them. I was so fascinated by what they had and how they'd collected this. And then I asked them this question, because this is what really baffled me. I said, you're selling all of this, because the man, he said, everything's for sale, everything's got to go. And I said to him, how come you're selling everything? Like, why does everything have to go? And he goes, well, we woke up this morning and we felt it was our time to leave. I said, really? And I'm thinking, okay, I said, can I ask where you're leaving to? And the wife said, we're going to live the dream. I thought, this is fascinating. I asked him, I said, what's the dream? And then the father said, we're going fruit picking. I said, that's a good dream. Fantastic. I'm thinking I could think of some other dreams, but fruit picking's up there, I'm sure. They're going to live the dream. But this is the thing that got me. Here's a family. The father and the mother woke up that morning and said, it's our time to leave. And they just put a sign out the front and said, everything's got to go. It's all go. And I thought, you know what? There was no lingering in this family. There was no emotional attachment to what they'd had for so long and what they'd been in their possession in their lives for so long. It was like, it's got to go. And I think for some people here,